money. So they're the ones perpetrating it. You follow the leads, and that's where it goes. I have seen enough evidence on this hoax of the hoax shooting of the Navy Yard, and I'm sorry for the victim, this guy Alexis, that they targeted him and they were gang stalking him. Gang stalking, basically, let's talk a little bit about gang stalking. For those who don't understand, it's nothing you want to experience. Gang stalking comes from the government, basically, but through proxies again. And they use a combination of electronic assets like satellites, microwave weaponry, that people with clearances have. Then they have these sort of black op operations that will enlist civilians and others to be kind of a covert army, covert operation that will target individuals that are politically wrong. You Christians and libertarians and stuff, you could get gang stalked now, but that's typical. Someone who has a politically incorrect message, something that's politically wrong, it's really to discredit them in their own community. So these people infiltrate the community, and they're being paid to do this. And somehow it's either drug money or government money. It comes through that. It's really a policing action, if you will, covert police, okay? And they're just citizens. They move into the neighborhood even, and we've seen this too. They move in, they acclimate to the community. They act like they have jobs when they're really, working for the police, let's say, but the police meaning the federal situation. And they then they say there's a targeted person for whatever reason. They may have corporate secrets. They may have some reason they're being harassed. So they set up microwaves, and usually on the roofs, if they're living across the street, they'll have like an infrared microwave and other things, and they can then there's satellite, and then there's trucks that have that gear in it, and they start harassing them that way, then going around physically and spreading bad rumors about them to the people in their neighborhood. So they become, they'll then, when they go to work or whatever, they will break into the house and, move things around, put in cameras, put in microphones that are secretive, very, very stealth, bug the place. Then they monitor them while harassing them with the purpose of driving them to be discredited, in some cases commit suicide, or even, have to go seek the help of psychiatrists to be put on drugs because they're hearing voices. And the voices are coming from, they're being dealt with. Some of these actions I've thought, well, gee, was that target really worth it? There's just some lowly person that, we knew one. And they break in, they will rifle through your clothes and leave like, a kind of a mess. Sometimes they will break in and rape, drug and rape if there's a pretty girl there or whatever, drug and rape her, and then it's all gone the next day, and just terrible things, terrible corruption, terrible thing. In one case, we knew of a woman in San Diego who was moving to a new apartment, was all excited, but then realized that she was being gang stalked, and then they were breaking in, they were moving stuff around, not enough to drive her nuts, and eventually she caught some kind of she eventually was hospitalized with some kind of a injury to her leg, like a surface wound, a gash or something in her leg, and then it became infected in the hospital, and she died, and it was like, wow, it just seemed to me she was targeted. And then her daughter, had to find, we were ministering to her daughter, trying to help her get a place. And apparently she moved in with relatives. But this was a really sweet person. And what drove them, I think, off the cliff was they just got a new job being a greeter at either Sam's Club or Costco, being one of the greeters there. Life was turning over a new leaf. And then this happened. And this kind of led to that injury, which led to the hospital, which led to the infection that killed her. And, you go in with a little flesh wound and you come out dead. Now, it all seemed to be they just wanted to eliminate her. And what was she guilty of? She was not an asset of any kind. She was not a player of any kind. She was just a lowly Christian woman. What were they doing gang stalking her? And how was it that she picked an apartment that would be right there where these gang stalkers would be like next door? And and they had somehow access to a key, and they could get in, and they could, it was harassment, and then obviously when you have that kind of thing, and then there's gaslighting, which basically is theater, where a group of seemingly strangers comes up to you in, on the street, and they love Walmart somehow. They're all over Walmart. They come up to you in somewhere, wherever you go to shop or whatever, and they stage something where they involve you in it, and somehow they know you and they know all about you, and to make you paranoid, to make you like, what's going on, to make you run with fear, or they follow you in your car, or they'll sabotage the car so that you could have a breakdown, or worse, you could get killed. And it's a kind of a wide spectrum of things they do, but it's all tightly coordinated, and the people involved could even be from your own family. Could even be from your own family if they're tied into that network. And who's the network? The network are Luciferian assets. I just put it that way. They are those who are on the, quote, other side. Of course, that shouldn't be such a stretch. They are those that are mind-controlled. They are those that belong to the devil. They are not Christians. They are not, they are those who have been initiated into it. And these people are, contractors. They're, they are the system. That's the best way I can describe it. They all have their god Satan. That's what. But ultimately it's a spiritual battle against these things and these people and these events. I don't know why they would pick on citizens that had nothing to do with some kind of something that could bring down someone in the government or someone that could expose the truth. Perhaps the reason they would just target, I don't know what causes them to target who they target, but it seems to be more spiritual. In other words, this was a pure-hearted Christian woman that was targeted. The only thing she had that was a threat was her faith to God, and she was a lamb. In other words, she was, like a virgin to their system. She wasn't part of it. And what happened was just, I look at it like another way. I look at it like the Lord brought her home, and she's fine. Don't worry about her. She's fine. But that was just so bizarre how it was gang stalking, then death. And gang stalking can take place at work. It's also called bullying, where they meet and they premeditate going after you, targeting you and acting like it's a random thing, driving you to quit. Okay, that's just another form of it. But the use of these weapons now are in the hands of the average. In other words, they can supply their people with microwave weapons in their car, so they can beam you from there. So you don't need necessarily now to tune into satellites. You can actually, you can put devices in someone's house, and it can just emit a low frequency, generate an ELF that would then drive them crazy. You can do, all these things are now becoming more and more in the hands of, more, it's not millions of dollars to get this technology. They go hand in hand, electronic harassment and gang stalking and gaslighting, and bullying at work, and, where it seems like a conspiracy where there's more people tied in. It's now gone mainstream. So this kind of gang stalking, let's take another guy like Michael Hastings, okay? Definitely, you could say, well, the feds were there, but no, he was watched, and he was probably gang stalked because he had to go on the run. And I believe, he was gang stalk harassed in the those days leading up to his death. So there's that, these people, they look like civilians, but they're basically playing a game of deception. They get to know you. They say hi. They're the mechanic. They're the guy at the store. But it's all part of an elaborate sting operation where, you're the target and you're being stung because you have some information or you've been politically incorrect like Michael Hastings has. So he was harassed. He was probably harassed electronically. He was definitely messed with his car, and of course the ultimate gang stalking would be putting a bomb in the car and blowing it up. There's the ultimate gang stalking. Or Breitbart with a meeting he went to just prior to his death. I mean, what was that all about? Was that a setup? Gang stalking is simply a setup. That's the best way to describe it. It is a premeditated setup against a target, just like a sting operation, just like the CIA going and infiltrating an organization so that they can eventually take it over or bust it or do something with it. It is that. It is the assets of the government being turned on the citizens in a covert way with the use of, you guessed it, actors. Some of which are actually just trained actors. The ones who are doing the actual gaslighting and things, most of those are actors because they have to be able to act to pull it off. They can't just recruit somebody and say, now go lie and act like you're this kind of person and here's your script. They all have scripts and they have to play out those scripts and they have to make it believable so that the person really believes there's some horrible conspiracy going on and it just ruins their day, which is the goal. It ruins their sleep. Then they beam them with weapons at night so they can't sleep. Then they gang stalk them the next day. Pretty soon they've gone, weeks without sleep, months without sleep, getting paranoid, checking into doctors, getting on medication, and they don't stop until their lives are ruined. And what's the motivation? They were considered a threat, and so they were targeted with the idea of ruining their life with non-lethal weapons, so that the only fault the public would ever see is on them, and they were just paranoid or mistaken. All this claim of conspiracy and gang stalking was all a bunch of hooey, and now the person's dead or they're gone or they're whatever happened. They were the ones who flipped out. They were the ones who went mad. They were the ones who made the error. Alexis was the one he was disturbed. He was mentally ill when in actuality he was being targeted and he was being gang stalked. And then he was being, I don't know what the motivation was to go there. Some people think he was retaliating. He was following where the voices were coming from. He was going to go attack. And other people think that, but then why would he just shoot random people? Maybe because when they're gang stalking, he might feel they're all in on it. I don't know. The other question is, were there random people? And why was Obama then ready to go already the day before? Why was he ready to go with the program of gun control? So to me, it's like the federal government is setting these events up, one after another, using crisis actors, Hollywood producers, wag the dog, in your face. People get killed, i.e., the people perpetrating this or benefiting from it are the murderers. And they don't get arrested. So who are they? Criminals. What happened? America coup d'etat was taken over. 9/11 was just the hors d'oeuvre. And it's just a really lousy world, isn't it? Oh well, but that's really the truth. I don't need to get more specific than that. All I need to see is the crisis actors. And once I see they're involved, I know it's a hoax. I don't need to waste my time on it. I don't want to go in. I don't need to prove, we already proved, Sandy Hook. We proved enough about it. We haven't followed everybody around and gotten interviewed and chased all the crisis actors to their next gig. But those people, believe me, they will show up in gig after gig, okay? Because the government thinks you're so stupid, you'll never tie Sandy Hook to it's tied to Obama. He's obviously the beneficiary of it in terms of his gun control agenda. And also that he was involved with the people there. And there's pictures of some of the kids with Obama in that situation. So I'm like, well, then he's playing a part too. This is just bizarre, but the buck stops with the president. See, that's what the people have not been able to, in the conspiracy world, he's a puppet. He's a puppet of Rothschild. He's a puppet of the Illuminati. He's a puppet of this, a puppet of that. No. He's a person involved. His will is engaged. If he's done criminal activity, and he has, and then obviously he needs to be impeached or put in prison. But nobody is doing anything about the criminality. None of it. Not the IRS, not the targeting of people based on their political views. Gang stalking has just been sanctioned to be legal. If someone has political views that the president doesn't like, put all the assets on them. Gang stalk them. Harass them. That's basically what gang stalking is. When it gets to, the spiritual battle, it's like when I get people talking to me about it that, they're very lowly people in life. They have like an average job and they're not, they're no threat to anybody, but they're being gang stalked. And that's a different thing. There's very little difference between the criminal organizations, and criminals wouldn't want, to do that with people because there's be no benefit financially. So, there is that level to it where there's a tie-in, there's some kind of program, there's some kind of benefit that happens. There's, for example, they might be running some kind of an operation on somebody as an experiment, as an operation to take data from it, to learn from it. It could be just trying to see what it would take to drive someone to suicide, for example, and then apply it later to a target that has who is a political threat, let's say, who does have some gravitas, some power, some kind of, position. But, I mean, can you watch the United States? Can you watch the mainstream news? I mean, can you actually watch it with a straight face? I just had to start cracking up when I saw the whole Navy Yard thing. It was just a joke. From the news people cracking up and then trying to get on cue, trying to get in their character, to everybody else. It's just one wag the dog after another, brought to you by the U.S. government and Obama at the head of it, where the buck stops. And people die. And he starts crying and and it's like, how can you do that, man? Let me tell you, Obama and people like you, not only are you extremely stupid, you're like one of the most stupid people I've ever seen in my life, because you don't realize that what's inside you is God. He has eyes and ears in your cells watching every bit of this. And there is no way for you to escape. So now you want to all become machines on the singularity. The singularity is death. The moment that you cease to be